All right, y'all, I'm so excited because I'm backstage at Business Boutique and I get to hang out with the amazing Kern Lima. And you have a new book. Y'all, we're going to talk about our new book and we're going to talk about all the things. This has been so fun. You just got off stage here at Business Boutique. Your story is incredible. And I wish every single person could hear it, but let's just do a quick overview of how you got the idea to start this cosmetic business and some of the stuff you had to do out of the gate to make it work, because it was not an easy path by any means. Tell us about it.
Not an easy path. Yeah, so, I thought I was going to be a journalist my whole career and was anchoring the news, and I started getting rosacea, which is a skin condition that's really red and bumpy, and I realized quickly that there was, I spend my paycheck on every product out there and I couldn't find anything that would work. Yeah. And sometimes when we start, businesses or ideas or goals or dreams, they kind of like come out of this setback that we're having. Yeah. And then it's like we later realize, oh wait, that was a setup for what I'm supposed to do, what God's calling me to do. And at the time I didn't know it was all that. I just knew I couldn't find makeup to work. And so after trying everything, I just decided, okay, I feel like if I can actually figure out how to create a product that works for me, it might also help so many other women out there. And so long story short, on my business, or on my honeymoon flight to South Africa, wrote the business plan with my husband for IT Cosmetics, and we got back and quit our jobs and literally just went all in. And I thought that would be the start of this amazing journey. Right. And it's now, when you look at the business now, which for the entire year of 2020, IT Cosmetics just became the largest makeup company in the country. So 20 years ago, I was a Denny's waitress saving my tip money to buy a Lancome eyeliner, a MAC lipstick, and this company I started in my living room is now larger than all of them, but the journey was hard. So when we actually started the business, it was 3 years. The first 3 years were all no's. So I would think, we have this product that actually works. We poured our savings into creating a product that after hundreds of iterations worked for me, which is our Bye Bye Under Eye Concealer. And I thought, if women get their hands on this, they're gonna love it. And we launched our website and no sales, right? And I would send it to all the beauty retailers, the department stores, QVC, and it was 3 years of hearing no from everybody. And we got down to our last $1,000 in our personal account, which is also our company bank account, and it was a really tough journey. It's tough when you can't afford to hire anyone who is smarter than you and knows what they're doing, and you're just trying to figure it all out. It's tough to figure out how to keep your faith, right, bigger than your fear, and how to believe in yourself when it feels like no one else really is. Right. And so it's been this crazy journey of sticking with authenticity and really listening to this still small voice of knowing, okay, I'm on this right track and I'm not seeing proof of it yet, but every time I check back in, I feel like I'm on the right track. And we eventually, after a real funny story, got one shot on QVC in a 10-minute window. And I took this big risk of doing something that wasn't being done in the beauty industry, which was showing my rosacea. And instead of traditional models, I put real women of all ages and skin tones and skin problems. And I showed live how the product worked. And I really, of course, wanted to have a successful business, but I also wanted to shift culture and beauty around changing the way women look in the mirror, changing how the images we see of what people call beautiful, and really ultimately helping to do that before little girls start doubting themselves, and to do that to help heal myself and so many of us women that have seen images our whole lives that tell us we're not enough. So it was this company of a product that I really believed in, but a really deep message. That's how I kept going for 3 years. And in that 10-minute spot on QVC, a lot of the experts told us not to do what we did. They said, book traditional models. We took a huge chance with everything on the line and sold out in that first airing. And after 3 years of no's, got more airings and then grew to the largest beauty brand in QVC history, and eventually got yeses from all the stores that told us no.
Yeah.
And grew to over 1,000 employees, and it's just been this amazing journey of trying to get that message out there of using models that are real women and changing the way we see beauty to be so much more inclusive and so much more real. And then we partnered with L'Oreal. In 2016, they acquired 100% of It Cosmetics to help launch us in all the other countries with their teams. And it was their largest acquisition in U.S. history. So they paid $1.2 billion cash for this company that I started in my living room and then made me their first female CEO in their 100-plus year history. And so it's been a wild journey of like saving my tip money at Denny's to buy fun lipstick to like now, today, where we're at. And so it's been a wild ride, but it's been a journey like packed with rejection and underestimation and all those things.
Even as you're talking and you describe this visual of like your living room and the Denny tips and that type of thing, which is so like, it's just, you can just picture it. And where you are today, this is just something we haven't even talked about, but how have you emotionally caught up to your success? And I don't know if that's even clear, but it's like you have done a lot. And when you look back, I'm sure it didn't feel like it at the time, but a lot in a very short amount of time, like the level of success with what It Cosmetics has done and what you have done, when you look back, how have you emotionally caught up to what that means? And even financially, like how you've been like, oh my gosh, like I'm not saving tip money anymore. How have you kind of kept up with that, and even your sense of self, through that?
Yeah. So there's things that I've done right and things I've done wrong. One thing I did wrong in the journey was, I got to the point where I was working 100-hour weeks, and I almost became like addicted to work and busyness. And I went through this journey of learning that like busyness is actually like any other addiction, where it separates, it like numbs us, separates us from ourselves. And I realized, which is also part of why I thought, okay, let's really partner with L'Oreal, because I need to really make, as an entrepreneur, some fundamental shifts in my life. But the one thing I did wrong was work 100-hour weeks and cause myself to burn out, all those things. The thing I think that I did right from the beginning, and even now in this moment, now that my circumstances are very different, is I've always known, and this comes from, I think, my faith deep down inside. I've always known that like what I'm called to do isn't about me. And so for me, it's what's fueled me in all the times when it seemed like no one else believed in me. Like I knew why I was doing this was so much bigger than myself, and to really shift culture and beauty. And even now, even just saying like, oh my gosh, you started something in your living room and someone pays you $1 billion for it. Like if I think about that, I can't even process that. Like, I can't even handle it. Because what happens is I'll start thinking of like, oh, but I didn't come from the right family. Neither of my parents went to college. Like all those things that we tell ourselves about why we're not the person that has those kind of things happen to us. And so two things. One, I often remind myself that like anything that's ever been created that's great, or that's a brand we all use now, or a big business, like it was all created by somebody really at the end of the day who's just like you and me, who's just like all of us. Every single thing, right? So like, why not us?
Why not you?
Why not? Yeah. And then the other thing is like when I really start to kind of like get in my own head about it, because it is really strange to say like, oh yeah, like all those things. Like I make it not about I remind myself it's not about me, right? So for my book, for example, I'm donating 100% of the proceeds, right? The book is to serve, right? And like I believe at the end of the day that we get in life like what we give, you know what I mean? Along this whole journey, I've known it's bigger than myself. Even now, like I don't know, I believe that, I'm called to serve and to, like I feel blessed to have accomplished one of my biggest dreams, but my biggest driver now is helping other women and especially other entrepreneurs, really other women like accomplish their greatest dreams. And like for me, that isn't really about me. And so it drives me. And then I don't freak out over things like, oh yeah, I sold my business for $1 billion, which if I think about it, I can't process it really.
Right.
And so I just have to flip it in my mind as, okay, maybe this is a cool example that is another example for other entrepreneurs of like, it's possible for them.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, I love that example. When we teach often about the power of your thoughts, we use the example of the 4-minute mile. It had never been broken, until Roger Bannister broke it. And then after he broke it, it was broken, 6 more times that year and 500 times since then because someone showed that it was possible. And so it's amazing to think of the $1 million businesses, the $1 billion businesses that will be birthed because like Oprah did for you, you are doing for others of showing that it's possible. One of the things, and you and I have talked about this, Jamie, but I love talking to you about it because I think that you are such a great model of this, you are one of the most gracious and humble and just genuinely kind people. And you have this level of success that's like, kind of mind-blowing. Like you're going, like, if I think about it, it's kind of crazy. I think that we as women struggle with feeling comfortable in our own skin. Yeah. We feel even a little bit uncomfortable with confidence. Sometimes we're like, oh, I don't know. Like that feels like I don't want to be showy. I'm worried about what people think of me. I don't want to seem selfish or greedy. We say like, oh my gosh, I love your outfit. Like, oh, this whole thing, I got it on sale. Oh my gosh, this dinner is amazing. You're like, oh, it took 5 minutes. No, it didn't. It took you 6 hours. Like we just diminish.
Yes.
Some things may be true and some things we're just downright lying. Like it did take us a long time to cook that and you did really work really hard. And so you had a moment when you hit the Forbes richest self-made women list. And after hitting this list and being uncomfortable with it, you had this aha moment that was how you handled it differently than how men tended to. Will you tell that story? Because I think that is such a powerful example. And then we can kind of go from there because I think this is good for us to remember.
Yeah, and I think I love so much this question because and it's recent for me. Mm-hmm. It's recent for me when I had this aha moment of how as women we really do dim our light and we really, always try to stay humble and grateful and all those things. What's the result of that? Do you know what I mean? And I just had that moment. So yeah, after L'Oreal acquired It Cosmetics, they published the purchase price. This whole thing happened, and Forbes reached out to our company and said, Jamie is on the richest self-made women's list. And this was out of the blue. And I had our head of PR reply and say like, well, she's not interested. Please don't include her on the list. Like, because I'm thinking like,
is this optional? I'm out.
Yeah, I'm out. And I'm thinking, and then they replied and said, well, we already have an estimation of her net worth. We would love for her to comment on the distribution of assets between her and her husband. All these things. I'm like, what? Like, I'm panicking, thinking like, oh, you don't talk about that and like all these things, right? And on top of it, I just thought like being on a list like that, I felt like not humble and not
showy. Look at me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I said no. And then they wrote back and said, well, it doesn't really matter if she wants to comment or not because she's on the list. Our list is accurate. Right. We know everyone's net worth, and the list has to be accurate for it to mean anything. So she's on the list. And I was just like, oh my goodness. And all the teams of bankers and lawyers and stuff, somehow they have estimates they believe are true. And so long story short, I said, well, okay, if they would share, the It Cosmetics story, stuff like that, that could be amazing. But I'll share that, but I won't ever talk about my net worth. And they agreed, and they published an article, and they kept their word, and it was a beautiful article. But then their list came out with numbers on it, and I'll never forget the first time I saw it, and I was mortified, like embarrassed, mortified, all those things. So they publish it every year. 3 years into it, I had still been hiding it every single year. And sometimes I would go do a big event or a keynote speech or something, and they would introduce me with like the bio they had written from what they find online. Mm-hmm. And they'd send sometimes the bio ahead of time. And every time I would have our PR team have them change it and not call it Forbes' richest self-made women and have them change it to Forbes' most successful self-made women. Because somehow I felt like that was more humble. Mm-hmm. And I did that for 3 years. And then I had this huge aha moment where I'm like, wait a minute. if I'm dimming my own light and I'm actually just robbing other girls, other women of another example in their life of someone who's overcome a lot and had business success, and me not sharing these things, right, is in a way like robbing them of that. And the funniest thing is when the reporter was like, and I asked her, I said, I'm so sorry, like I just don't feel comfortable sharing this and all that. And she goes, oh, it's okay, it's really common for women. I go, what do you mean? And she goes, well, a lot of the women on the list don't want to ever comment, they don't tell us. And she goes, and it's so different for men. And I'm like, how is it different? And she goes, well, on the other list that has men on it, like they actually get really mad that their number isn't higher. She says they call our offices, right?
They do. Mm-hmm.
And they complain. She goes, they send in proof, they send in financial records, they'll do everything to try to prove that not only should they be on the list, they need to be at a higher slot on the list. So it was this drastic difference. And over time, I just realized, wow, as women, like you started this question with, sometimes we bond over problems, and we bond and we feel included and we feel loved in our friendship circle or our family circle when we downplay ourselves and when we bond over problems like,
Right.
I my car got a flat tire, or whatever it might be, my house is a mess, or all the examples you gave in the beginning. Oh, this jacket, is right. We bond over that, but like at the end of the day, what is that really doing, right? Because like for me growing up, me seeing Oprah being confident and celebrating her own successes showed me that it's possible, right? And so I'm like, wait, me hiding the Forbes list, me not sharing the even monetary success, which even right now feels weird to say that out loud, but it's another form of success, and me hiding it actually is just potentially robbing, inspiring someone else that it's possible for them, right? Yeah. It'd be like the guy who ran the 4-minute mile, like hiding it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like, so I feel like this conversation is so powerful for women because we should all be helping to heal ourselves, helping to heal each other, helping to heal our daughters, the next generation, by really celebrating our successes and not going, oh, I'm showy, no, like I'm confident. I want to share this with you. Like, let's cheer each other on. Like, let's champion each other. Let's show examples of what's possible for everyone else so that they're inspired and believe it's possible as well for them.
Yeah, I love seeing how you talk about it too, because even though you've even struggled with it yourself of like, yeah, it makes me uncomfortable too. I think so many women relate to that because they're not totally comfortable. And I think there's something to this, Jamie, of like, and I'm pro women. I'm also pro men. I don't think you have to be like anti-men to be pro women.
Of course,
but I think there's these cultural expectations that we want to fit in a box. We want to be real polite. And there's some fascinating research on men's and women's perceptions of women's power. Both men and women perceive women more negatively when they are assertive, when they're aggressive, when they ask for what they want, when they negotiate for a job, for salary. Like, it's not just men perceive women because it's outside of the stereotype they expect. Women also perceive women more negatively. And so I think if you can, you, me, everybody can set an example of what it looks like to hold your head high and not pretend like you're not successful, not hide the blessings in your life, because I believe everything we have is a blessing. You worked your tail off and God blessed you at the same time, and be grateful for that instead of hide it. I think it does set an example for other women to do that as well, for them to be comfortable in their own skin. You know, this is a little bit of a side note, but like when I travel and I'm on the road or whatever, all the time I'm asked, oh, who's watching your kids? I'm like, do they ask my husband that?
Right.
They don't.
Right.
My husband never gets asked, oh, who's watching your kids? I don't know, the dog. I mean, like what a crazy question that I'm on, and I love my role as a mother, but I'm not one of those angry pro-women, but I do want to call out the opportunities we have to see women outside of maybe social stereotypes or cultural norms and say, like, let's celebrate that a woman built a business in her living room for $1 billion, and everybody go, that's one of us. Like, women are winning. This is paving a way for more women to do more things and still at your level of success have the grace and humility and gratitude that you have, I think is just such a powerful model. I know people want to know, because so much, you talk about this in your book, even of how you believed in yourself in order to do that. It was not an easy path from living room to L'Oreal. That should be the subtitle, from living room to L'Oreal. How to go from underestimated to unstoppable. People want to know where they can get a copy, so let them know, please.
Yes. So the book is called Believe It, and the website, so we have a website, believeit.com, and it lists all the retailers from indie bookstores that are amazing and really need our support.
Yeah.
Really need our support in all of our local communities, and all the way to all the retailers online, Amazon and Barnes & Noble, everywhere else. So it's believeit.com, or you can just Google it, you know, and
you
find
can
it.
it. And where can people find you
just
online?
Coming out.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm excited. My prayer, and by the way, like, this has some business in it. It's a lot of personal, and it's really for every woman, every person who's ever just like struggle with believing they're enough and needs to like really learn like how to believe it for themselves, is really just the heart and soul of the book. So I'm so excited. I'm on Instagram mostly, Facebook as well, but Instagram at Jamie Kern Lima, and I love your Instagram, by the way. Like when you were telling me about your house the other, I'm like, oh yeah, I know that already because I was on your Instagram. I love it.
Because it's a real struggle.
Yes, I love it.
Oh my gosh. Well, and I've seen you too share some excerpts from the book and just some of those quotes, and you're going like, oh my gosh, whether it is in business or personal, you need that. Like, you need that belief in yourself. And one of the things I said this morning in my session was, it has to come from within you. No one can do that for you. It really has to come from within you. So I love how you share your example, which I think will just inspire people to believe it for themselves as well. Thank you so much, Jamie. Thanks for your example, and thank you for your time. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you so much.